Okay guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to make this spar bar, which is by far my best design. It is super stable because it's propped up against the ceiling and there's no need for a base. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so the first thing you're going to need is a ball bearing. I've got a couple here, different sizes. Now I'll put a link in the description to one you can get on Amazon. Now this is the smaller of the two. The bigger one I used on these poles. So that actually fits nice and snug on there. I just needed a bit of tape. This one requires a different pole for your main pole. This one internal diameter is 25 mil, so the pole needs to be smaller than that. And what I'm using for the pole is a galvanized steel pipe. This is 1/2 inch galvanized steel pipe, and you need it to be about 4 inches short of your ceiling. Now these pipes are actually quite ideal because not only are they quite strong and rigid, but you can also combine sections to make up the exactly right height that you need. In fact, I couldn't find the exactly right size pipe, so I combined a number of sections, in fact 3 sections, to make exactly the right height, so it's 4 inches short of the ceiling. So a ball bearing and a pipe. Now for your arm itself, you can use different materials. You can either use wood or you can use aluminium pipe. Aluminium is nice and light and strong. Wood is quite heavy, but I've actually gone for a PVC section of pipe because it's the lightest. You don't have to use PVC, but that's what I've been using and they seem to work really well. Now for your ball bearing, you'll need a large hose clamp, metal hose clamp like this, and that'll go around your ball bearing and grab onto it when you tighten it. Now, you'll also need a smaller hose clamp that will go inside of this larger one, and that will hold your spar bar arm. Okay, so I have inserted the smaller clamp through the larger one and tightened the larger one around the ball bearing. Now this is ready to be attached to your arm. So it simply goes onto your arm at a particular point and then you tighten that. Now I have it attached at about 3/4 of the way, not in the middle but 3/4. And the reason for that is I want one side to be longer and one side to be shorter. The shorter side, I've actually put a nut on the end to weigh it down, so there's a little bit of equilibrium in the weight. It's still heavier on that side, but you got to try and make it as evenly weighed as possible. So you could even put a couple of bolts on the end there to weigh it down. For the pads, I'm using pool noodles and I've just wrapped them in duct tape. So they just slide on and you can adjust the length of each side by sliding them further out or closer in. So this one might be a little bit too far out. There you go. So that's the arm ready to go with the ball bearing attached, and that's ready to go onto the pipe. Now I'll show you how to set up the pipe. As I mentioned, for my main pole, I'm using a 1/2 inch galvanized steel pipe, which actually fits inside of that ball bearing that I showed you. I've got sections of it that I've made up so that it's roughly 4 inches shy of the ceiling. And I'm going to use the taller section at the top because I want to be able to adjust the height of my spar bar. Now, when I put the spar bar on, there's a fair bit of movement, there's a fair bit of space between the ball bearing, the inner diameter of the ball bearing, and the steel pipe. So what I've done is I've taken a section of PVC pipe that I've split lengthwise and I've put around this galvanized steel pipe. Now this allows me to move it up and down, and onto this I can seat my ball bearing and it will be nice and tight. I have used a little bit of duct tape there as well, as you may be able to see. There's some red tape, there's some black tape there, and that's just to create a really firm connection, and the red tape at the bottom stops the ball bearing from moving any further down. Now I can adjust the height of this by sliding it up or down. It is pretty hard to slide it up and down. I don't want it sliding when I'm training, so it is pretty solidly around the pipe. but this is it. Next, let me show you how simple it is to wedge your pipe between the floor and the ceiling. Guys, the secret to this whole build are these feet. These are adjustable furniture feet, or used for different purposes, I suppose, that sort of move around a little bit. You've got a little bit of movement there, but essentially all you need to do is buy a wing nut. This one is an M12 size thread, so a wing nut to go in there that I can adjust the height of my pipe that sits on top of it. So one is for the top, one is for the bottom, wing nut at the bottom to adjust the height and to tighten it, and Bob's your uncle. I just forgot to mention, I've put tape, this is duct tape, on the end of the thread so that when it goes into the pipe, there's a nice snug fit, right? And it goes all the way to this wing nut, and then you can adjust up or down. So this will be the foot, this will be the bottom, and then the other one goes on the top. Let's set it up and check it out. All right guys, well I've got the top that also has tape at the end. I've slopped that on and it's a nice tight fit there. The bottom is adjustable, so I've got my wing nut at the bottom, and that's also got tape on that foot, so that's ready to go. I'm just gonna set it up. Basically make sure that it is exactly vertical in this way and then in that way. So you've got to make sure that it is set vertically, and then tighten the wing nut, and that's it. Don't over tighten, otherwise you might push your ceiling out. That's pretty tight. That's ready to go. That's it guys, it's that simple. How stable is this thing? Man, this is easy peasy, it's cheap, and it is very, very effective. Alright guys, make sure you subscribe, stick around, tick the bell, whatever, and put in the comments if you've got any other ideas, or if you want me to review any products that are out there on the market, and I'll see you in the next video.